Clovercrest Media Group presents a CMG podcast. Keys to the City.
Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know.
Crossed up by Kobe, little floater to Shaq, and then Shaq goes like this, and the rest is history. Pay attention. Don't tell me what to do, devil woman. But speaking of those Lakers, hold on. But I didn't make my. I said Denver's gonna win. Yeah, you did. You said that.
There's no other show like that. Clovercrest is doing great things right now.
Streaming everywhere.
What's up, everyone? It is the Posting Up Podcast here. I'm Lucas Bulldog, and I am joined by Justin, Sean, and Big Chase. Welcome, gentlemen.
Howdy.
Yes, sir.
Hope everyone's doing good today. A group of men who aren't doing too well are the Dallas Mavericks, and it's gonna transition us right into our first topic of the day. Dallas has lost 6 straight. They're sitting at 13th in the Western Conference. Guys, Sean, I'll start with you. What's going on with the Mavs? Why are they not playing up to par with how they were expected to?
Yeah, I think there's a lot wrong with the Mavericks right now. For one, their second best player, Kristaps Porzingis, he missed half of their games already. He's been out for 10 games. And most of them were at the start of the season, but there's been a couple games where, he's been resting, like the other night against Phoenix, they rested him, which, I get he's coming off an injury, but, if you want to contend in the Western Conference, you're going to need him. So I think, they should try to get him out there as much as they can. Other than that, I think they lost the trade with the Sixers in the offseason. Josh Richardson, who they got in exchange for Seth Curry, just hasn't been good this year. He's been shooting terrible from the field, and, he hasn't been really making any other plays for his teammates. And on top of that, they're missing the shot-making ability of Seth Curry. Obviously he's one of the best three-point shooters in the league. But I think their biggest problem is their defense, though, especially out on the wing and the perimeter. They have some smaller guards who aren't great defenders, like Tim Hardaway and Trey Burke. And also, Luka's great on offense, but he's not a great defender. So, and they also don't have a great rim protector. So I think their defense is their biggest problem. Obviously, they need Kristaps back and healthy, and if they don't fix those two things, I think it's going to continue to be a very rough season for the Mavericks.
Yeah, like I mentioned, they've dropped 6 straight. They've lost 9 out of their last 12 games. Jace, who in particular here has to step up? Sean mentioned that Kristaps is kind of iffy with his injury. Luka's obviously been playing very well, but do the role players just need to step up, like Hardaway, like Sean mentioned? Josh Richardson isn't really doing it for them like Seth Curry was. So who do you think has to step up on this team?
Well, yeah, I think the big ones are going to be Tim Hardaway and Josh Richardson. They really need to step up and supply some scoring to that guard position. But I person I am going to say here, I think might be a little surprising, is Willie Cauley-Stein. I think he needs to step up and relieve a little bit of pressure to limit the minutes of Kristaps Porzingis, because I think when he is a little bit overworked at that center position, he ends up that's where his injuries come from. So I think if you can get if another big man can handle more of the load, I think Kristaps Porzingis will stay healthier, and then the Luka and him can make a little bit more magic and make this dynamic duo work a little better.
Justin, what do you think about this Mavs team?
Right now, it's
it's been disappointing. They're supposed to be able to take that next step this year and really have another chance at competing to win the Western Conference. But yeah, I've been really down on this team. I'm really disappointed the way they've been playing. I like, what Sean brought up with the Steph Curry, Josh Richardson trade, because Steph Curry was a 45% three-point shooter last year, and Josh Richardson's 28% this year. And the only guy that's shooting over 30% from deep this year on the team is Tim Hardaway. Luka's not a great three-point shooter. He struggled, this year. But it's also been their offense. Their offense last year, they had a lot of ball movement. They were 13th in the league in assists. But this year, they've been a lot more stagnant. There's not a lot of moving. There's a lot of standing around, and they ranked 28th this year. So for this Mavs team, I think they got to get back to what they were doing last year. Really start moving the ball better like they were last year. But this is a team they got to find a way out of this hole very soon.
Yeah, sometimes their offense just looks a bit stagnant, and this Mavs team isn't one who's known for the proficiency on the defensive end, but I mean that like with Brooklyn, you can kind of make up for the lack of defensive play with a great offense, which the Mavericks are supposed to have. I mean, they have, in my mind, an elite scorer in Luka Doncic, and then they have an all-star scorer in Kristaps Porzingis, and then they have a bunch of role guys who I think can score the ball, given the opportunity. Tim Hardaway a couple weeks ago or last week dropped 36 points. So you're looking for more of that out of your role players, having one of them pop off every once in a while to relieve some of that pressure on Kristaps Porzingis and Luka Doncic scoring-wise would be nice and would help them out a lot. So I think definitely the Mavericks need to figure out their situation on the offensive end. Defensively is not much of a concern for me, but I think that once the Mavs kind of figure out what's going on offense, they can turn it around. But if they continue this trend and continue to sit at the bottom of the West, I think they can be in danger soon of not being able to turn things around. So with that being said, that'll bring us to our first game break. But before that, we'll bring you a message from Clovercrest Media.
Looking for a casual baseball podcast to listen to? Well, Baseball with the Bard, presented by Clovercrest Media, has just what you're looking for. Tyler Bard and Noah Cross cover a wide range of happenings in the MLB and then dive into a deep focus on the Red Sox and Yankees. Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for your weekly dose of Baseball with the Bard.
So we've got some good games coming up this week, starting with a tonight matchup on TNT with the Nets and the Clippers. Obviously, both teams are sitting pretty towards the top of their conferences. It's always exciting to see these East versus West powerhouse matchups. I think, they only meet twice a year, so it's kind of fun. Justin, I'll start with you. What are you looking for in this matchup? Anything jumping out to you?
Well, I want to, how Brooklyn bounces back. They gave up 150 points to a Washington Wizards team that I know they're scoring basketball, but that's still a team you got to beat. So and now you go up against Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, who the last 5 games he's been averaging 30 points a game. He's really playing well right now. So I'm interested to see how this Brooklyn team, if they can do enough to slow down the Clippers, because the Clippers can play defense. They're 4th in the league against it. The Clippers are 4th in the league against for points against. So again, I think the Nets may not have a ton of struggle scoring, but it may be a little bit more difficult than usual going up against a team like the Clippers.
Sean, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I think Justin brought up a great point. And I'm definitely looking forward to, the superstar matchup, Kawhi and Paul George going against Kevin Durant, because I'm sure they'll be guarding him most of the time. But, like Justin said, we'll see how the Nets offense obviously is great, but the Clippers defense, one of the better defense in the league. So we'll see if they can continue, scoring all these points. And then defensively, it's just been a nightmare for the Nets. And I don't think it's a great matchup tonight. They're going against a really hot team. After a really disappointing playoffs last year from Paul George and the rest of the squad, I think they're pissed off and they want to come back and contend in the West and go to the NBA Finals. So I think this is a big Clippers. I think they're gonna be out to prove something. So I would go the advantage to the Clippers in this one, but it's going to be a really fun matchup, and I'm definitely looking forward to watching it. How about you, Jace?
Well, yeah, I agree with it. It's going to be really, really fun. This is going to be a really tough matchup for this dynamic, explosive Nets perimeter offense. I mean, with Kawhi and Paul George, should be interesting. But I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen tonight. But I expect the West to be the West and the Clippers to dominate this team. The Nets are playing very, very well. They lost that game last night. I mean, a couple nights ago to the Wizards. You know, that was just Russ pulling one over on his former teammates. Mm-hmm. But but the Clippers are really, really good. There's a reason they're number one in the West, and they're gonna show why the West is better than the East. Do you agree with that, Lucas?
I hate to say yes, but yes. I think Sean brought up a good point with the Clippers being such a dominant defensive team. It'll be interesting to see how the Nets kind of react and game plan to that because, you know, we say all the time, and the Clippers by no means are a bad offensive team either. So it should be interesting to see the Nets game plan for that, and I think this will be kind of the first time they face an elite defense. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how they go into that game, and you know, I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers win this game by 20 points just because of the holes on the Nets defense, and then two elite defenders in Kawhi and Paul George. I think they're gonna limit Kevin Durant and James Harden. I think Kyrie Irving might have a good game though, so watch out for that. Tomorrow, game that's not quite catching my eye, so I think we'll skim over that one. And the Clippers play again on ESPN on Friday versus the Celtics, another East-West matchup. Jason, anything in particular you're looking at in this one?
This should be intriguing because I like the way Jason Tatum's playing, and Jaylen Brown. We talked about a couple shows ago how both of those guys could be dark horses for the MVP. But then I think this is going to be a tougher game because I like the way those guys match up with Paul George and Kawhi a little bit better than I like how Kevin Durant and James Harden and them match up with Kawhi. But I think the big thing in both these games for the Clippers is they need Zubac. They need their bigs to step up because both these teams have been struggling. I mean, obviously the Nets with trading away Jared Allen. DeAndre Jordan's kind of been struggling to carry that same load. And then the Celtics, I mean, Daniel Tice is all right, but he's nowhere near a solid big man in this league. So I think I'm really excited to see if the Clippers can handle their business down in the paint. I think they can take both these games here.
Those are great points. Justin, Sean, you got anything on this game?
Yeah, you know, I think for the Celtics, can they close off a playoff contender? We saw them a couple of times blow games to the Sixers, even the Lakers on Saturday night. So for me, if the Lakers the Celtics, if they have a chance towards the end of the game to close them out, can the Celtics be able to do that? Because we have not been able to see that so far. But I like Jason's point too about the paint game for the Clippers. I don't like Daniel Trace or Tristan Thompson down low. You know, Zubac could get going. Even Serge Ibaka's been playing better. In his last 6 games, he's got 14 points and 9 rebounds. So even Serge, I could see have a big game Friday night against the Celtics.
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, I think, you know, the Celtics bigs, obviously you guys hit on that, but I think that's a great point. Daniel Tice and Robert Williams played great the other night against the Lakers, and they still lost. So they're going to need a lot more production from their bigs. And then Kemba Walker has to step up. He had a terrible shooting performance against the Lakers when they played. He's been kind of rusty, you know, coming off that injury. So I think, you know, he needs to step up. He needs to get back to all-star form if the Celtics, you know, really want to be contenders in the East. But, you know, they're going to get that consistency from their wing players, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think they're two young superstars. Jaylen Brown definitely deserves to be in his first all-star game this year. But we'll see if the Clippers can take advantage with their big Zubac and Ibaka, see if they can take advantage down low on some weaker defenders in the Celtics. So I think they could take over there. And then, like I said, Kemba needs to step up if they really want to make a push here.
So next coming up, I want to talk about some teams. We've talked obviously about teams struggling early on in this season. You know, as the season's progressing, you're kind of getting a sense of who's good and who's not, but it still might be a little early for some teams. Teams like we've talked about, the Mavericks, the Heat, Raptors, and the Pelicans, who are all kind of, you know, we're looked at as for surefire playoff teams this season. They're struggling. They're trending towards the bottom of their conferences. So I wanted to go around the little circle here. I'll start with Sean. We'll go to Justin, and then we'll go to Jace. I want you guys to give me one team you think could take advantage of these teams struggling and kind of get a firm place in these playoffs, whether it be 7 or 8 seed.
Yeah, my pick is actually going to be the Chicago Bulls. I think they're a dark horse in the Eastern Conference. If you look at the seedings right now, you know, the teams at the bottom and 7-8 is Hornets and the Cavs, which, you know, I think both those teams could easily be out of the playoffs. Obviously, they've had a decent start to the year, but all you need is really to be right at 500 record to make the 7 or 8 seed. We've seen that the past couple of years in the East, and I think that will continue. That's the way it's looking to shape up right now. And you know, I think the Bulls, I think they could do that. They have a lot of talent on offense. Obviously, Zach LaVine. I think he got snubbed from an All-Star game last year, and I think he deserves to be an All-Star game this year. He's a tremendous scorer. He could do it, you know, driving to the rack, obviously, and shooting the 3-ball. But it's not just him. Their offense is really good with, you know, young players like Kobe White, Lauri Markkanen, you know, who's really been playing well the last couple of games. You know, had a couple monster games last week. So I think their offense definitely has the talent to do it. And I think their defense is just going to get better as the year goes on. I think they have a lot of young players, you know, that have to, you know, get that chemistry going on the defense side of the ball. And they also have a first-year head coach in Billy Donovan. So I think they're just going to get better as the year goes on. And I could definitely see them slipping into the Eastern Conference playoffs, maybe at that 7 or 8 spot.
You know,
Justin?
for me, I'm sticking the Eastern Conference as well. I get the Miami Heat. This is one of my favorite this is probably my favorite organization in the NBA. The way they run things, the way they handle everything. I was listening to you guys' show Saturday, and I know you guys are talking about the Lakes not probably being there yet, and all, you know. And I definitely agree with that. I think that's been one of the issues. They're finally starting to get healthy. Jimmy Butler's back. Bam's stepped up even more this year. He's playing even better. And of course, we all know that this team is, they're built on defense. And I feel like, Eric Spoelstra and this staff is going to get their defense back to peak performance where they don't have to put up so many points because that's not really their style. They want to keep games in the low 100s. 90s is where the Heat want to be. And I think they'll be able to get there eventually. And I feel like in an Eastern Conference that, is weaker towards the bottom, I feel like this team can get their way back in the playoffs at 6, 7, 8 seed. They may not be able to beat the Nets in a series or the Bucks or somebody like that, but I think they could give them a series, or it wouldn't shock me to see the team go again on another run.
Nice. I'm going the Grizzlies here. I mean, I know right now they're 4th in the West, but as we saw last season, as they sadly lost that playing game, with these teams struggling, I like how they're taking advantage and how they are tied for 4th right now in the West, and they're taking advantage of these early struggles from these teams. So if they can take advantage of that, get this solid seeding, and then maybe they find themselves in a 4 or 5 at the end of the year because of this, or it could even help them towards that 8 seed. If they can find themselves with that possible home position or in the first round of the playoffs, that could be interesting. Or however they're doing the playoffs, I should say.
No, yeah, that's a good pick, Jace. Very out of the box thinking there, but I like it. I'm gonna go with a team sitting at I think eighth or ninth in the West right now, and that's the Houston Rockets. I read something a couple days ago that since they traded James Harden, they've been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and that's crazy. They've also won, I believe, six or seven straight games, so they're fighting.
Yeah, so
Yeah, no, they're a tough team. John Wall obviously looks like he hasn't lost a step athletically. I mean, the guy's playing phenomenal. DeMarcus Cousins has been playing better as of late, getting some starts, and then guys like obviously Chris Wood, who last year kind of emerged towards the end of the season as a threat and a big time player. He's proven his worth this season so far. So I think this Houston Rockets team has pretty good potential to sneak into these playoffs and maybe even win a few games, tire out one of the powerhouses like the Lakers or the Clippers. So, thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. The Rockets are playing very well. So that's a good sign. So with that, we'll go into our second game break of the day. And first, we'll give you a message from Clovercrest.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our main event.
So, not a lot going on right now, but there are some little tiny things to go over. George Hill for the Thunder. Obviously, the Thunder aren't that great. He's going to be out about 4 weeks. Something I did want to go around and maybe talk about, something that made me laugh last night, was that woman courtside at the Hawks game who got in that little argument fight with LeBron James and got ejected. I kind of give the floor to anyone. Does anyone have anything to say about that? I think it was kind of funny.
yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. Not much to say about it. Just I love LeBron's tweet after Karen was big mad. I thought that was hilarious. So
Oh
That
yeah.
was funny.
I mean,
Yeah,
you go, Justin.
the only thing is how is this like? I'm actually shocked you're allowing fans courtside right now. The pandemic.
true.
I was actually just shocked to see that. But yeah, that was a funny one. That's something you probably don't hear too much in a full crowd.
Yeah.
No,
Don't do
yeah.
that as well.
Yeah, I mean, Justin stole what I was going to say. Yeah, it's wild. I didn't realize they were having fans like this, but and it is interesting to see, like, yeah, with this is something that wouldn't be a problem in a full stadium because it would get just drowned out. But yeah, now that there's no fans, it's interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, and then something else that happened last night was the Pistons Nuggets was called off literally moments before tip off because of COVID issues. And obviously, Jace is grimacing there because that brings flashbacks of the whole Utah Jazz Oklahoma City
Yes.
Thunder event that happened last season. So, Jace, I guess I'll start with you. I'm assuming you were going to tune into that game last year, but we're thrown off by the cancellation.
No, yeah, I did have. It was a.
So
I don't know. I had a little bit of PTSD from that.
yeah, I wanted to get your opinion here. How many more times do you think this has to happen before the NBA starts looking at stuff, or do you not think this was that big of a deal?
I don't think that was that necessarily big of a deal. I think they figured it out. It is crazy that it did have to. It was right at the last minute, like right before tip off. So that was wild. I figured the NBA would have been more diligent enough to have it figured out earlier, but at least they were able to get it figured out and call off the game because of whatever was going on. So,
yeah, Shauna, I'll go to you next. Do you think that something like this could be, if this stuff like this keeps happening, obviously, which hopefully it won't, that it could be detrimental to the season and how it plays out?
yeah, I think it could. I mean, if it keeps happening, I'm not sure that it will. I'm sure the NBA keeps putting in more protocols and guidelines to try and contain the virus. Obviously, not let it spread throughout all these teams. So I think it can if it gets to that point, but I think the NBA has done a good job of, after a really rough start with a lot of teams and a lot of players out with COVID, I think they've done a better job of, really, containing the virus and, not letting it spread. And I think last night was probably, they probably just got late results of, testing or close contacts. And I'm sure it was right before the game. That's probably why they ended up doing it just, on such sudden notice. But I think that, the NBA has definitely done a better job with their protocols. And I don't see it to be a problem going forward. But you never know with COVID. So we'll see how it plays out, though.
Justin, you got any comments on this situation?
The only thing, I don't think that, the NBA right now is any danger of what happened last night. The only thing is, to me, is like, they can't wait till the last second. It just, it's unfair to the players, to the Nuggets who, got to Detroit, came already, got ready for the game, and right before tip-off, it's like, okay, get back on the plane and go home. And even for, like, the few fans I think that Detroit has, they leave work, or you leave work early or something. You drive the game, and all of a sudden, you're in your seats, and the game gets canceled. It's kind of unfair to the fans too, because it's one night maybe that they could actually go to the game, and now it gets canceled. So I wish they did this. I wish again, who knows what happened, but I wish that the results came earlier than they did last night, right before 7.
Yeah, no, my only thing, just like you said, Justin, I wish things they'd be more on top of it. Like Sean said, you never know. It could be a late contact tracing or something like that going on. So, so we won't let that consume any more of our time because we got something fun coming up. This is kind of this came into my mind today, and I thought it would be perfect to end the show on something kind of fun to talk about. We'll start with Sean, then go to Justin, then go to Jace. But I wanted to know, is there a particular game in NBA history that you guys just really wish you were courtside for, or if you could go back in time and get a free courtside ticket to one of these games? Which game would that be for you?
I'm going to pick the 2013 Finals, Game 6. Obviously, the game, it was Miami Heat versus San Antonio Spurs, the game where Ray Allen hits the three to, head to overtime after Chris Bosh, gets the rebound and pass it out to him. But just the comeback at the end of that game, obviously everyone thought the Spurs won it at that point. They were up 3-2. So it looked like the Spurs were going to win the championship. Obviously, they were rolling out the trophy to hand to the Spurs, and everyone goes, wait on a minute. The Heat come back, and they make the amazing comeback, and obviously go on to win in overtime. So just when I think of, obviously I've been a big NBA fan my whole life, but for some reason, one of the biggest games that sticks out to me is this one. I could just remember exactly where I was watching it. It was just one of the more fun games I've ever watched in my life. So that's definitely one that comes to mind. If I were able to be courtside for that one, it'd be amazing.
Justin, what do you got?
I'm also going back to past, a little bit more farther back. I'm going back to the 1986 playoffs with Michael Jordan, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics. To me, MJ's the greatest of all time. Obviously, I never saw him in person or any of that. It's a 63-point game that he had. I know that the Bulls got swept in that series, but he kept them afloat against, that roster the Celtics had, which was nasty. Larry Bird, Bill Walton. I'm having a brain fart here. Who else is on that team? But anyways, they was just, the way he tried to put the Bulls on his back was, outstanding. And that's one of, I think, the best performance we've ever, that we saw from Michael Jordan. So that's one of the reasons why I love to sit courtside. I guess any Michael Jordan game, but that was the one that kind of stuck out to me. The 86 playoff game.
Jace, hit me with it. What do you got?
All right, I got it. 1995 Finals, Orlando Magic versus Houston Rockets, Game 1. I'm a big Shaq guy. I wanted to pick a Jazz game, but I went with Shaq instead. His first ever Finals game, him against Hakeem in the paint, and then it all came down to the infamous Nick Anderson missed free throws. And boy, that just feel watching it, and me even talking about it now, I can feel the energy of when I watched that back. So to be in the arena, to see that happen, to see those free throws get missed, and to see Shaq and the Dream go at it, that's just amazing to me.
Yeah, I'm going a little more recent than you and Justin did, a little more around when Sean was going, but those are two great picks by you guys, by the way. I didn't even think to go back that far, but I'm going to go with the 2016 Game 7 of the NBA Finals when the Cleveland Cavaliers conquered the 73-win Warriors. I have never been happier after watching a basketball game. I think I'm one to always root for the underdog, and I'm so happy that the Cavaliers were able to climb back from a 3-1 deficit in that series. I think being courtside for that game would be amazing, especially if I was right behind Kyrie Irving when he hit that kind of dagger over Klay Thompson from deep three. So I think that game was great. I was happy as hell watching it from my house that the Cavaliers finally, A, were able to win a championship, and B, take down a juggernaut like the Warriors. So I can't imagine how happy I would have been seeing that courtside and obviously staying for the championship celebration and all that stuff. So that would have been fantastic for me. But you guys all made great picks, so that was fantastic.
Yeah, it was really fun.
So that wraps it up today for the Posting Up podcast, brought to you by Clovercrest Media Group. Like it says right there at the bottom, visit clovercrestmedia.com to check out our wide range of podcasts. And like I always say, you could start your own. Go to the Clovercrest Media website to find out more about that. Thanks for Justin for joining us. Welcome back, Sean, and Jace, as always. Thank you for being on with us. And that'll do it for the Posting Up podcast. Peace.
Welcome to Ivy League Murders. On this podcast, we focus on cases affiliated with the Ivy League, exploring the darker side of higher education. What happens when genius becomes evil? My name is Sarah Alcorn. I'm a Harvard graduate, and I've been a private investigator since 1999. Join me and longtime crime diva Laura McDonald for Ivy League Murders.